Hello, I'm State Representative Tony Burkley from the 82nd District.
And I'm State Representative Brian Hill from the 97th House District. Welcome to Ohio in Focus.
Hello and welcome to this edition of Ohio in Focus, a program that brings state government to you. I'm Brad Miller, and I'm pleased to be joined today by State Representative Tony Burkley, who serves the 82nd House District, which includes Defiance, Paulding, and Van Wert counties, and part of Audelaize County, as well as State Representative Brian Hill from the 97th House District, which includes Guernsey County and most of Muskingum County. Representatives, thanks for joining me.
Glad to be here.
We're going to talk about your activities over the summer with the House Agriculture and Rural Development Committee. It's a standing committee in the House, which meets regularly in the State House, but it also this summer traveled around the state. Chairman Hill, we'll start with you. Going into these summer hearings, what were the goals of the committee? What were you hoping to take away from them?
Well, after we went through some tough legislation this spring with House Bill 61, which turned into Senate Bill 1, dealing with water quality, we started out by taking the committee on the road. And that was a valuable lesson for many of the members of the committee. They got to go firsthand to those areas where the water quality was impacted. Hear firsthand from farmers, agribusiness people, as well as those concerned about the water quality in the Lake Erie. So we kind of took that same approach after we finished the regular session and decided that, you know, what's agriculture going to look like in 2020? And so we thought the best way to do that was to travel to Ohio and see, you know, firsthand, allow the committee to have firsthand access to what agriculture is today and what do we think it'll be in 2020.
You mentioned Senate Bill 1, which was passed and signed earlier this year. Representative Burkley, you were vice chair of this committee. And earlier this year, a hearing was held in your district in the 82nd. Can you talk about the importance of taking these on the road and how that kind of shapes and changes the discussion of these issues?
Well, many times when you're 2.5 hours away from Columbus like I am, and many parts of the state just don't feel like maybe they have the access to the legislature that they normally would. And the summer gives our group an opportunity to go out there and actually meet with those people and in their own front yard, so to speak. And especially in Northwest Ohio, where we have the impact of water quality. Last year we did a very good job, I think, of going around to those communities and meeting with them, and it was just an opportunity to hear what they felt could be accomplished, and some of the things that we've picked up in those meetings we've carried through into legislation. So it was a valuable piece that I think worked out well for Senate Bill 1 and the precursor House Bill 61. So it was a good opportunity for the community to be a part of that process.
We'll touch on some of the major subjects that the committee delved into over the summer. We'll start with some of the technological advancements. No question technology has shaped all industries, agriculture being no exception. Regarding innovation, your first hearing was at the Ohio State University. Representative Burkley, what were some of the things you saw, the committee saw there that some people might not be aware are out there?
Well, maybe not being aware, but we just had an up close and personal view of some of the things that are currently in use, technology-wise, from drones to auto steer tractors, and not only auto steer tractors, but GPS pinpointing where equipment is at any particular time. And as farms continue to get larger and larger, technology will become more and more of a bigger part of agriculture. And so OSU is on the cutting edge of those technologies, and it's just fascinating for me to see all the advancements that are out there and continuing to occur. And what's exciting for me is that while we were there at OSU campus, there was a gentleman from my district that was working with the people from the university and presenting that particular presentation. It was good to see that people from my district were heavily involved in that process.
Right. We'll have you address that. How has technology and its progress over the years shaped agriculture and those innovations?
Well, I think without, technology has helped agriculture like it has many other businesses, whether it be GPS information, the satellite information that's available. But precision agriculture is dependent on that. And with the cost of inputs increasing more and more and margins becoming tighter, agriculture needs to depend on and utilize those technologies that many other business people use in their daily business, and no difference in that. So the Ag and Rural Development Committee, which is really the rural development side, is something sometimes we forget about, but having that technology available to farmers is very vitally important as they continue to grow and produce the food and fiber that this world needs. And it was great to go to Ohio State University to see that our land grant institutions still have a vital role in helping agriculture move forward and feed the world.
That kind of leads us into our next topic, which is agriculture education. Many schools in Ohio and throughout the country originated with their primary focus being on agriculture. This could be for both of you. We'll start with you, Chairman Hill. How has agriculture education changed from, we could go back centuries or even just within the past couple decades?
Well, we think 20, 30, 40 years ago it was all about ag production. And there's so many jobs in the agriculture field that are not directly involved in agricultural production. I think less than 2% of our nation is directly involved in production agriculture. But from food processing to delivery of those products, shipping and overseas markets, agriculture is vitally important. And our ag education goes into many different areas, whether it be ag science, which is really today kids can get a qualifying science credit through an ag education or an ag course. So continuing to produce teachers that want to be involved in agriculture outside of just production will help grow agriculture even further.
Representative Burkley.
Yeah, Brian hit it right on the head there. There's so many opportunities in agriculture away from the farm. We heard many people at when we went to travel to the OSU campus in Worcester, and the opportunities either in education, being an ag teacher, the shortage that is occurring there, or just the people in the industry, the implement dealers, the food processors. There's such a need for those types of jobs out there that the opportunities are available to people with various degrees of education. It doesn't take a master's degree to meet some of those jobs. There's opportunities all along the line, and so the future is bright for agriculture in Ohio.
The committee met 5 times over the summer. The final 2 hearings touched on the topics of crops and livestock, respectively, those separate hearings, which on the surface seem to be pretty opposite or very different. Chairman Hill, as a cattle farmer, that's not exactly the case. Those 2 industries do interact, specifically things dealing with fertilizer, nutrient management, things like that. Can you kind of give us some further explanation on how those 2 things interact?
Well, the crop scenario meets with the need of nutrients of some kind, whether it be chemical fertilizer you buy or whether it be livestock manure, which is a nutrient in and of itself. So they're vitally integrated. And the crop farmers need the livestock producers, and vice versa. One for the feed product and one for the nutrients that come out the other end, to be able to apply them in a safe manner on those cropping fields. So it's an industry that, again, one relies on the other, and one can help supplement the diversity of a livestock farm and a crop farm, which we see around Ohio, and they work hand in hand together.
That sort of goes back to what Senate Bill 1 addressed
Right.
as well. Representative Burkley, you can address that same question as well as far as how those industries interact, but also the committee moved around the state, of course. Just in your background in agriculture, do you find that the concerns that farmers and agriculture workers have around the state are pretty similar, or do you notice very different concerns in different parts of Ohio?
Ohio is so large that there's different ways of farming depending on what locality you are in Ohio. Where I'm from, Northwest Ohio, it's a lot of flat land, so drainage is a big issue for my district. We have some of the best row crop fields farming in my district, but we also have livestock too. But as far as how diverse Ohio is in Bryan's area, a lot of rolling hills, so they farm differently than what we do in Northwest Ohio. And of course, the farmers they're a lot better in Northwest Ohio than they are Southeast Ohio.
Watch it.
This is good for ratings. Continue.
Yes, yeah, but we are, we love what we do up in Northwest Ohio, but you can't have a one-size-fits-all for Ohio when it comes to farming, because things that Bryan does in his district just won't work in my district and vice versa. So
Right.
it's good to have that flexibility in Ohio and meet the needs of what actually is on the ground.
We have a few minutes left. We're back at the State House. Fall legislative session is now underway. Following these summer hearings, what becomes of the information and the testimony and the ideas that were shared? Chairman Hill.
Well, we'll issue a report to the speaker to talk about what we learned and what was heard around Ohio, and from that we hope to help draft legislation that may again improve agriculture in Ohio and help us produce and feed the world right here in Ohio. So I think we look for ideas as we travel to Ohio to come up with ways that we may affect policy here in Ohio. One of those there's a couple things that come to mind. Big concern with agriculture, with commodity prices changing, as we heard around Ohio, I've heard for some time, and the CAUV issues on how we tax our farmland needs to be discussed further. And the second thing is with Senate Bill 1 and the manure management and fertilizer management programs we've implemented, we've asked farmers to store this manure longer, not spread on frozen snow-covered ground. So we've actually introduced some legislation, House Bill 297, which would give some tax credits to those that actually invest in providing higher quality water.
Representative Burkley, closing thoughts on this whole process and where we go from here.
Bryan touched on some of the things that we got out of these meetings, but we just, from the thing that I picked up most about as we traveled across the state was, one, how big Ohio is and how diverse it is, and that there are a lot of opportunities in agriculture that if people like to either work with their hands or do things that are away from the farm, there are a lot of opportunities out there, and there are shortages that are either through education shortages or through just opportunities for people to get started in the industry. We know that agriculture is one of those industries that is very intensive when it comes to gaining capital. So we might want to look at some of those things that will get more people involved. Our agriculture people are aging, so we want to get more young people involved, and that's always a good thing to get that cycle started again. And so I was glad that Bryan took this committee on the road, and we always gain valuable information as we do that.
And with that, we're all out of time. Chairman Bryan Hill, Vice Chairman Tony Burkley, thank you for sharing your insights on agriculture in Ohio.
Thank you.
Brad.
And we look forward to seeing you again on the next edition of Ohio in Focus, the program that brings state government to you. Thanks for watching.